The Count was no longer young. He was at least 40, and yet it was easy to understand that he was formed to rule the young men with whom he associated at present. And, to complete his resemblance with the fantastic heroes of the English poet, the Count seemed to have the power of fascination. Albert was constantly expatiating on their good fortune in meeting such a man. Franz was less enthusiastic, but the Count exercised over him also the ascendancy a strong mind always acquires over a mind less domineering. He thought several times of the project the Count had of visiting Paris, and he had no doubt but that, with his eccentric character, his characteristic face, and his colossal fortune, he would produce a great effect there. And yet he did not wish to be at Paris when the Count was there. The evening passed as evenings mostly pass at Italian theaters, that is, not in listening to the music, but in paying visits and conversing. The Countess G wished to revive the subject of the Count, but Franz announced he had something far newer to tell her, and, in spite of Albert's demonstrations of false modesty, he informed the Countess of the great event which had preoccupied them for the last 3 days. As similar intrigues are not uncommon in Italy, if we may credit travelers, the Countess did not manifest the least incredulity, but congratulated Albert on his success. They promised, upon separating, to meet at the Duke of Bracciano's ball, to which all Rome was invited. The heroine of the bouquet kept her word. She gave Albert no sign of her existence the morrow or the day after. I had one image going through my mind in today's passage, and it's Franz recognizing just what Dante could do with his power and influence if he ever reached Paris, and it's the idea of these mostly 1990s disaster films where the scientist or the military man looks at a computer screen and sees a projected escalation of the plague that could take over the world. It's going to reach the shores of the U.S. in less than 24 hours. And I mean, obviously that's all in good humor, but I do think that Franz is starting to see Dante as a bit of a plague. Imagine what this man could accomplish if he ever hit Paris. We've seen what he's done here. We've heard tell of all of these other places he's been. And Franz knowing what he knows of Paris, things are going to get bad there. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, we don't even really know what Dante's up to. Franz has all of his suspicions, but what are they all for? I'm ready for something. Something big needs to happen in this story. Maybe we'll get it by the end of this chapter. We only have a few more episodes. But, like, a ball has to drop somewhere, and someone has to drop it. I don't know who, I don't know what, I don't know where, but we're leading toward something, and I feel like we've been walking in the dark for so long that we gotta get somewhere. I feel like my brain has finally caught up to the idea that Albert is the son of Mercedes and Fernand. I still feel stupid about it, but even setting my realization of that aside, which only happened last chapter, going back to when we started with Albert and Franz, let's just take a look here. When did that happen? When was the start of that chapter? Chapter 31 was the start of Franz and Albert's story. Chapter 31, Italy, Sinbad the Sailor. If you remember back to chapter 31, it begins with this sentence. Towards the beginning of the year 1838, that was the time jump, 2 young men belonging to the First Society of Paris, the Viscount Albert de Morcerf and the Baron Franz d'Épinay, were at Florence. That was our introduction to Franz and Albert. Chapter 31. We are about to finish up chapter 36. And I don't feel like we have really traveled that far. And maybe this is kind of a side effect of the compression and expansion of time Dumas does for so many chapters leading up to meeting Albert and Franz, Morel's chapters aside. It was very, well, no, even including Morel's chapters, it was like, here is 14 years of story in 5 chapters. And now it's been like 3 days over 3 long chapters. And I'm ready for another, like, let's get to something. Because you know what? You know what, folks? You know what? I'm going to tell you what. We are 1/3 of the way through this book. We have hit a milestone. Here we are, 1/3 of the way through, and that's exciting. We have so much more to do. We have about 1,000 more episodes. Oh my god. I can't. Oh, my nose just started to bleed. That's too many. That's too many episodes. What have I done here? Focus, Landon. Focus. Okay. We're 1/3 of the way through this book, and I ask you, do we feel like 1/3 of a story has been set up so far? I guess that's impossible to answer, but do you know what I'm getting at? Like, a lot of this has been living in this world, which has been fun and awesome, but as far as, like, hitting 1/3 of the book, I kind of feel like we need that next big thing to happen soon. I might not ever get that. So what am I talking about? I don't know. This is kind of irrelevant. I'm just kind of trying to be honest with where I'm at with things. I'm ready for the next, like, oh shit moment to happen, and we haven't had that yet, and in a while. I didn't even really talk about today's passage beyond Franz's little assessment of Dante. They went to the opera again, saw Countess G again. Instead of telling her more about Dante, they talk about Albert's pursuits, and it seems like, if I had to guess, if I had to wager money on where chapter 37 is going to go, it's going to be this big old ball. And you know what? Maybe Dante is going to pull a little Phantom of the Opera masquerade sequence and disrupt the ball through some sort of act. Or maybe Vampa will. Something's going to happen at this ball. Everyone in Rome was invited. We all know that. Though I will say, not to try to get ahead of Dumas trying to give me a big old fool again, but I do still think there's something up with this woman that is pursuing Albert. Now that we know that he's the son of Fernand and Mercedes, and Dante has some sort of interest in him, it feels like a trap. It feels like a trap. I hope it's not. I don't want that for him or her, but it feels like it is. Let's keep reading and find out, shall we? Until tomorrow. Okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.